something that I thought would be interesting to do that I will not really planned, but then there's a few months that one could do if you're someone who likes to watch movies or so on. But something that I thought would be interesting would be to kind of combine that with my more specific interest in doing focused watches on particular directors. And something that just kind of stuck in my mind was this Fukasaku Friday. I just found out about this Japanese film director, not just found out, but had really kind of interest in looking into this director more. And starting in the beginning of December 6th to May 30th, what I did was weekly Friday watches of a Kinji Fukasaku movie, and this is the list of the 26 films that I watched. Usually I'll be just kind of talking about how my thoughts on Fukasaku's directing style. What's sort of interesting is how efficient he was able to be, especially during the 70s. He was just he was really producing films at a rate that is and like really well made movies. And I know a lot of not just Yakuza movies, but like crime movies can all blend together. Like there's this running idea that it's not just in crime movies, but specifically, someone like Martin Scorsese, there's kind of like this idea that a lot of his movies, which I don't agree with, but like someone could think that a lot of his movies just kind of are all the same. Anyway, so I started off with a release that's part of a double film release from Film Movement Classics. This is available, I think it's from Eureka, as a solo film, the first one that I watched, and that release does look really solid as well. So if you're more interested in getting a slipcover edition of this version has, I think, sold out at this point, but you can still pick up the Eureka edition of Wolves, Pigs, and Men. This is a 1964 film. It is an earlier sort of crime, I'm forgetting the exact term, but there's this term that's thrown around a lot related to the kind of films that Kinji Fukasaku was making from the 60s into the 70s, of true to life, kind of semi-factual, but with a real films with a core of based on kind of true events. But like, I think there's a degree of it, not quite, how do I say it? It's not, these aren't quite films that you necessarily say are based on a true story in the same way, but are, I'm forgetting the exact, but that's essentially it. Film focused on three brothers. It's kind of got a bit of like a melodrama angle, but it's a very exciting film. The thing with Fukasaku films they can be bleak, but they're all really dynamically, efficiently produced features. This was a really great starting feature. The last film that I watched would also have been, I think, equally as interesting to start with, but I ended with that one. Both films are from 1964. Next up, this is a release from Radiance Films. There's quite a few Radiance Films Fukasaku releases, all very remarkable. This one from 1969, Japan Organized Crime Boss. I'm just gonna start going rapid fire, because if I start lingering, a bit. I'm gonna stay here forever. Next up we have 1976's Yakuza Graveyard. It's hard to, this might be my singular favorite Fukasaku film, but it's incredibly arbitrary in a lot of regards. Then following that, another film from 1976. Those last few films, Yakuza Graveyard, Japan Organized, Crime Boss, those are more in the somewhat grounded, although I think Yakuza Graveyard's kind of... Anyway, but this is more of a fantastical, action-y approach to a film, and that is Violent Panic, Big Crash. A lot of car pieces in this, just... it's a different kind of film, but it's a really fun film in terms of a lot of the Fukasaku Yakuza oeuvre. But he does. We have me starting to watch through probably his crowning achievement in film. 8 films produced over an initial set of 5 films, and then 3 films after, so it's Battles Without Honor and Humanity, and then New Battles Without Honor and Humanity. So I watched, following Violent Panic, The Big Crash. The first film in this series, 1973, is Battles Without Honor and Humanity. The week after that, I watched 1973 is Hiroshima Deathmatch, and there's a lot of really good films in this series. The first one's really good, but the second one is really... There's some really good performances. Sonny Chiba plays a sort of antagonistic, kind of a prick of a mobster in the movie, but he looks really cool, and he's really like he's got this you gotta watch him. And also the lead in this movie, it's sort of an interesting movie within the series, because this is focused on a character who's primarily focused on a character who's only in this one movie. So I wouldn't say you can necessarily watch it without the other films, but it's got sort of like a solo piece to it, approach that, in a sense, it's a really interesting it's a really interesting story, just outside of that, even just within the series of I'm forgetting the full name, but I think there are also sometimes these films called the Yakuza Papers. Next up, we have another film that is something that ranks high in my regard for Fukasaku, and that would be Tora 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 from 1970. There are 3 directors on this, and Fukasaku is only one of them. However, he really knows how to do like big set pieces. This is maybe one of the earliest, potentially. I need to check really, but in terms of like a big production, especially international production, I would guess that this is one of his first dealings with that, and it's fantastic. Following that, we have much more of a goofy film, The Green Slime from 1968. Not great, a sci-fi work, but it's it's not bad. It could be much worse than I think. In a lesser director's hands, this would have been complete, unwatchable, turgid dog shit. But in Fukasaku's hands, it's actually quite pleasant. Oh no. This is a 1966 film, The Threat, another Arrow Video release, slipcover. All of these films have really great presentations. I have, in terms of what's in my collection, these are primarily all Blu-ray. There's a few more films that are available by Fukasaku that are available on only DVD. And out of all of the films available by Fukasaku, I would say only one of them is commonly available on 4K, although I think there might be other ones elsewhere, but that's another thing. I don't think there's English subtitles on. It doesn't matter. Battle Royale is essentially the only one that has a 4K that would be available if that's something that you would be interested in. And then, next up, we have Sympathy for the Underdog, which is it's a fascinating movie because I believe this is the film of his that kind of has this sort of subtle inspiration from a film called Battle for Algiers, and it doesn't necessarily pull directly from that movie, but it's not necessarily an inspiration or a pull that you would expect to see from a Yakuza movie, but as executed by Fukasaku, it's just really it ends up being a really propulsive, kinetic action movie that's also incredibly thoughtfully executed and has some, not necessarily things to say, but it's not just a bunch of guys killing each other. But it is also a bunch of guys killing each other. And then next up we have what is an adaptation of a Japanese comic book, kind of a bit of a more, how do I say this? Last one was from 1972. This is from 1977. It's more of just an out-and-out fun film. It's not the kind of focused violence of the Yakuza films, but it's a different kind of goofy than the green slime. I was gonna say it's not as goofy, but it is quite as goofy. He has like a pet pig or chicken or something. And Sonny Chiba plays the lead in that movie. Very fun to watch him in all of these Fukasaku movies. He starts appearing a lot more as this series goes on. Following that, we have Proxy War, and the third. Following that, we have Proxy War, the third film in the Battles Without Honor and Humanity series from 1973. Then after that, we have Cops vs. Thugs from 1975, which isn't explicitly a cops battling thugs, but a cops in comparison to thugs. There's also a very fascinating kind of dynamic that happens in regards to the relationship that two characters have in the movie, based off of food, where one makes the other person food at a certain point, and it's this interesting touch in this sea of a whole bunch of other interesting things, because one is a yakuza, a criminal kind of guy, and one is like a cop kind of, what's the dude thing guy word. Following that, we have 1974's Police Tactics, the fourth film in the Battles Without Honor and Humanity series, and then following that, we have Final Episode, also from 1974. Then we have 1972's Street Mobster. Then we have 2000's the last full feature film that Fukasaku filmed, Battle Royale. Then we have another Sonny Chiba film. It's an incredible looking release. This is Legend of the Eight Samurai from 1983. Look at that incredible arrow, bow, this general. After that, we have 1978 Message from Space. And of all the films here, there's probably films that I think would be better to watch, but this is essentially Fukasaku doing, it's not just this, but it's very much this. It's him doing Star Wars a year after Star Wars came out. If you're someone who really likes something like Power Rangers, I think you'd really enjoy this. It's just so, it's so odd. Like, where is it? Just a lot of great ships, a lot of odd effects. It features one of the I've not watched Jaws, but there's a guy named Vic Morrow who's an American actor, who, I don't know why, I don't know if he was going for this, but he's constantly drinking, and he reminds me of the impression that I get of how I think it's Robert Shaw is in Jaws. He's not only is he constantly drinking, a lot of the time if you look at him, he's like almost on the verge of tears. And it's not like he's like dramatic, it's just like this American in space just constantly hammered, and it's just like it's an incredible cinematic. Following that, we have the first of the new Battles Without Honor and Humanity. It is the only of this new trilogy of Battles Without Honor and Humanity films that is somewhat connected to the first one, but also it comes out in 1974, also the same year as the last two films of the first series of films, and it's kind of, I imagine it was one of the most jarring experiences for a lot of audience. They start to drift more towards a different kind of filmmaking than whatever the more factual, like true to life kind of Yakuza films that were a big part of the original series. It's still kind of there in the first one, but it's once you're in the second film, you're really into a whole other territory. Which is partially why I never watched I haven't yet watched the third of those movies. Following that, 1978's Shogun's Samurai. Following that, we have Hokuruku. Hokuruku Proxy War. I fucked that up royally. Not intentionally. I need to fucking learn how to fucking read. 1977, this is allegedly, as far as what I've read so far, from these various booklets and so forth, this is Kinji Fukasaku's last fully factual, true to life, whatever it's called, Yakuza film, and it's pretty good. It is a sort of wintry, snowbound, set, brutal, incredibly bleak movie that just, not bleak in the, there's bleaker Fukasaku movies, but it's a hell of a film. Following that, we have the second New Battles Without Honor and Humanity film from 1975, Head of the Boss. It is a singular film unconnected to the previous series. It's really good. I think it's one of Fukasaku's best, in a sense. Probably underrated because it's a part of this newer series as opposed to the original, but I don't necessarily have the greatest sense of how Fukasaku's films are fully regarded. But yeah, Sonny Chiba is also in Head of the Boss. Sonny Chiba was also in the last film before that, although I think that was potentially an uncredited role. Although I forget, it might also be an uncredited role in Head of the Boss. But moving forward, 1981's Samurai Reincarnation. Did I say that right? 1981. Then following that, 1978, The Fall of Akko Castle. And this, his samurai movies are interesting because they're samurai movies, but of his samurai movies that I have thus far seen, The Fall of Akko Castle it's much more of an epic, and it features a lot more slow, deliberate filmmaking as compared to a lot of his, I'm not sure if it is in a lot of cases actually handheld, but like a almost shaky, just very frenetic kind of violence. There's a it's a much different film than a lot of Fukasaku's canon that I've seen previously, and it's not that he's necessarily the greatest at doing this as opposed to his normal style, but that he was so efficiently able to do this while continually and like at still a high rate, like in and around 1978 for his own more so style. I think it's a testament to how good of a director he was able to be at his, I would say this is like his peak, basically, essentially. And this is also the penultimate Fukasaku Friday. Which leads us to the last film. I think this was also released by Radiant Films, but I picked up the 88 Films edition. This is 1964's Jacomen and Tetsu. This stems from a screenplay that was written in part originally by Akira Kurosawa, which was made into a movie, I think 1949, but not directed by Akira Kurosawa. The script is largely, I think, from what I've kind of seen, the same. Really well put together film. Jacoman, who is the guy with the eye patch, is a fascinating character that's really fun to watch, and yeah, it's... Did I mention Fukasaku's an anarchist?